Hey, thank you so much for being here. This is the One Off Technology Podcast. I am your host, Roy Richardson. I am, depending on where you go hang out, I am known in some circles as a tech troublemaker. And I'm going to do my best to cause just a little bit of trouble, not too much. Those of you out there watching, thank you so much for watching. If you are watching this after the fact, rewatching it, or watching it when it's not live, thank you so much for coming by. I do appreciate that. So, this episode, we're going to talk about Big Brother and your cell phone. So, do you know where you are? No, seriously, do you know where you are right now? Well, your cell phone does. Your cell phone is constantly triangulating itself between cell phone towers, and it's saying, hey, I'm here. And so, the signals bounce off, and if you've watched CSI or Law and Order, you know, when they've done the phone tracing and trying to find somebody, well, they talk about the three towers that are triangulating where you are, and they can get pretty precise about where you are. Usually 50 feet by default, always, sometimes down to 20 feet, even less. So the cell phone towers know where you are. Now, the whole point here is, if you're familiar with the concept of Big Brother is a concept that comes from George Orwell's 1984. Maybe you read it in school or college, I don't know. And it's that there's an all-seeing, all-knowing entity that is watching you at all times, watching every move you make. And you might think about what Big Brother and your cell phone know about. In this video, we talk about tech, and we talk how to better protect your privacy. We'll also talk about Siri and how she isn't who she used to be. If you would, be so kind as to like and subscribe. Follow me out there on social media. I'm Tech Troublemaker. That's Tech Trouble MKR, because Twitter wouldn't let me buy a vowel, and so I couldn't do the last two. And if you're watching, subscribe. Be sure to subscribe, and that way, every time I go live, anytime I post a new video, you'll get a notification about it. Ring the bell, and you definitely get notified when I'm doing live videos. And so thank you so much for that. Also, be sure to comment. I love to hear what you have to say. And so thanks so much for watching. Now, let's get started. So, again, my name is Roy Richardson, and this is the live version of the One Off Technology Podcast. Each week, now we're in season 3. This is episode 10, and the podcast is available anywhere you like to listen to podcasts. You know, Apple Music, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Music, Amazon Music, they're all out there. I've been in the tech industry for over 25 years, and this show, we're going to try to talk about how many towers must be connected to get a correct location. Well, hey, it's a good question, Big Red. Theoretically, 3 towers are enough in order to get a very accurate location of where you are. Post in the show notes, I'll post a link that tells you, in full detail, everything you never wanted to know about how cell towers triangulate where you are. Funny thing is, Greta Garbo had something to do with that. Anyway, so the answer is, does Big Brother and your cell phone spy on you? And the answer is probably. But Big Brother in this scenario is not some big giant government, unless you live in a country that tightly controls the internet where you are. Or maybe you have some conspiracy theory about the government that's, I'll let you fill in the gaps here. I'm not really a conspiracy theorist kind of guy. It could be they're watching me, but I think for the most part, the U.S. government is chaotic good. Mostly chaotic, but good. They mean well. So, for the purpose of the discussion, Big Brother in this case are tech companies. Tech companies only want to make a buck. Okay, now that I think about it, hackers only want to make a buck too. That's their goal too. But tech companies want to target what you do, where you go, and what you like, so that they can send you relevant ads. So let's say, if you listen to any of my previous podcasts, we've talked about how in browsers or live streams, we've talked about how cookies are saved onto your computer from your web browser, and they are session cookies that keep up with the fact that you visited a site before. So it's like, so it's kind of a convenience if it's a site that you go to often. And then also there's session cookies that keep up with the fact that you have logged into a website, and hey, you were here a few minutes ago, so I'm going to remember you, and I'm not going to make you log in again. So that's good stuff. And so it keeps you authenticated. And we've also talked about how Google has a new way of tracking users using a technology they've created that only works in Chrome so far, only supported by Chrome, called FLOC, which stands for Federated Learning of Cohorts. And basically, they say it's an attempt to track you anonymously, where they take multiple people that are doing the same thing and then lump them together, and they give that information to advertisers. Say, okay, well, these people are all football fans. These are all football fans, and so you can tailor ads specifically to them. And you check the show notes. I'll put a link back out of something I've shared previously so you can find out. Okay, so now you're probably asking, well, what does that have to do with my cell phone? So yes, your web browsers are telling who you are, but some of your favorite apps have asked for permission at some point, and you may or may not realize it, but you've allowed those apps to do location tracking. Huh? Yes. Your phone is constantly pinging the cell towers to say, hey, look at me, here I am. And you've allowed apps to track you. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, I go to Walmart and I'm in the parking lot and the Walmart app pops up and says, oh, you're store number 3872. Like, what? How do you know I'm at store 3872? Like, what? Yeah. And so, so what does that mean? And then I went to Chili's. I had ordered food online in the app. As soon as I pull up the Chili's, the app wakes up and says, hey, you're here. We'll bring your food out to you shortly. So the app, I enabled location tracking on this app so it knows I'm in the parking lot. And we're going to talk about how on Android and iOS devices, you can control this stuff here in just a few minutes. So at some point, you've given them this information. Like, have you ever gotten an ad inside a program you're running and you get an ad for a lawyer that's in your place? Like, what? Why is Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe advertising on Clash of the Titans app or Clash of Clans? What? And then the second question, why does Clash of Clans need to know where I am? I don't understand that. Or maybe you've been to one of those websites that pops up and says, hey, welcome from whatever your company name is. Let's say Mirror Abstract Productions, which is my fictional company that one day I hope to make into a real company. But they do a lookup on your IP address. So wherever you go, hey, thanks, John. Yep, I've redecorated the studio. So thanks for coming by. And Big Red, I'll get to your question about protecting devices here in a minute. All right, so they take your IP address, they do a reverse lookup, and they figure out where you're coming from. And if your IP address has a registered domain name, then they say, oh, you're from this company. And they know, all right? And I find that more informative, well, more annoying than informative. The point being is that you are being tracked, and either you knowingly or unknowingly have given apps permission to do this. And some apps, it's an easy decision. Like, for example, Google Maps would not be very useful at all if Google Maps didn't know where I was at. Seriously. If Google Maps couldn't use my location tracking, then the map app would not be very useful to tell me where to turn next. It would be MapQuest, if you remember that app where you had to print out the directions to go anywhere. It would be like Rand McNally. Oh, look, I've got an atlas. I can look in here and see how to get places. And Rand McNally's not giving you turn-by-turn directions. So, but why does Clash of Clans need to know where I'm at? And that's a question I'm going to answer. So, recently, with the release of Apple iOS 14.5, apps that previously hadn't asked your permission that were supposed to all along. Apple says they were always supposed to ask your permission in order to whether they could track you or not. And so, Facebook's the one that's most upset by this because why? Because location targeting and tracking allows them to tailor ads to your specific location so that you see the ad for the car wash or the lawyer or the store where you're at. It also, hey, based on the places go, this may be a male. He's probably this age because he goes to this kind of places and that type of thing. So the next time your apps update, they're supposed to ask you permission to track you. So let's do a demo. I want to show you this, all right? So I recently went to an iPhone. Forgive me, please forgive me. I was an Android person like my whole life, and then my company said, you're going iPhone. All right. that's a sad story for another day. And I've talked in a previous podcast about my favorite apps. All right, so start broadcast. All right. By the way, NDI from your phone to your PC or Mac is a really cool thing to do sharing. You should try it. It's really cool. All right. So now I'm going to change to boop, and bloop. All right. So here's my phone purple. And let's go. Here's me. Hey, we changed sides. I did it the other way earlier, but it's okay. Okay, so here's my app, and I'm going to settings. So on the iPhone, you got to go to privacy, okay? And then look at location services. So you could turn location services off completely, but the downside of that is that there may be apps that you don't mind them having location services because it's very helpful to you. But you have to determine how much of your privacy you're willing to give away for convenience. It's like if the product was free, then technically you are the product. Think about Gmail. Gmail is free. What does Gmail get out of it? They get to search through your email and tailor ads to you. Now, recently, admittedly, Google says they don't do that anymore. They do find keywords. They might tailor some ads, but they don't stalk you in any way. Yeah, right. So anyway, so here I am. So notice all these apps say, hey, I can say Alexa can never access where I'm at. It has to ask me every time from here on out. I can say while using the app, and I can also say always allow location tracking. So this app can like always know my location if I tell it to. Wow. So you have to go through every one of these apps and determine, is that something that's important to you? Now, so with 14 on an Android phone, and sadly I don't have it all cool where I can show you on the screen real easy. Wow, next time I'll do that. I'll have it there for you, man. I won't fail you. I will do the right thing. It'll be good. So anyway, inside in Android phones, you have to go into the phone and go to apps. Scroll down and go to apps. And then once it finally gets there, thinking about it, you have to go to each individual app on the phone. I'll show you an example here. And then you have to go to permissions. So there's permissions. Yeah, zoom in. Hey, thanks for the likes. You have to go to permissions, and then like this app is a radio station app. They're not asking for anything from me. They don't want my location. They don't want access to my microphone or phone. They don't need access to my storage. That's the other thing. There are apps that need access. They want access to your microphone and your storage. Why? Again, I'm playing Clash of Clans. Why do I need that? So yeah, the point being is that not cool. Now, next up, going back to the iPhone, if we go to tracking, notice that there are now 4 apps that have asked me, do I want to allow them to track me? Now, this is over and above location tracking. So this is tracking as in we're going to create something similar to a cookie on your mobile device that says, this is Roy. Everywhere he goes, that's Roy. And I'm going to then take that location data and put that Roy. And by the way, Roy's at Walmart. But so, needless to say, recently there was a poll, only 16% of people are actually saying so far to let Facebook track them. If I go here and say on, then Facebook is going to be able to track me. I don't want that. Do you want that? Why does Facebook need that? Again, so they can tailor ads to you. That's what the purpose of that is. And so, yikes. It's all about determining how much privacy you're willing to give away. What is important to you? What do you want to give away? Well, let's change cameras. Ta-da! All right. Anyway, so you've got to think about your privacy and what is important. Hey, John, thanks for coming by, sir. Yeah, thanks, man. Done a little redesign here. All right. Big Red, hey, are there ways to protect your devices from data mining? Can you block them from accessing your data? The answer is yes, maybe. So depending if you have an Android or if you have an iPhone device, then those permissions or those app settings can lock it down. Now, if the data mining if that app is something nefarious that wound up on your phone, then you may want to look at running some type of antivirus. I don't normally recommend any of the antivirus programs on cell phones because on the slower phones, it slows them down to a crawl. But going through the permissions and looking at each app and seeing what they want to do with your data, you can go in there and lock it down where they cannot. If they behave like they're supposed to, it will stop them from going through your data. And so that is your best effort to try to protect your data and keep them from taking. Some of the weird things that happen is that some of the apps that you go and turn these permissions off on, they're going to say that you're going to have a less than perfect experience with. So, and then some apps are going to claim, oh no, I absolutely have to have access to your microphone. Again, why would Walmart need access to my microphone on my phone? Android's the worst. Apps on Android just go in and take all the permissions in the world. There was a calculator. I downloaded a calculator app on my Android phone and then wanted access to my phone records so it could see who I call and talk to. Why? Why would a calculator need that? Think about that. Absolutely, why would it need that? So your answer there is to go into permissions on the app and block it from tracking and block it from location. And then, like I said, on Android, you can go in permissions, individual apps, and tell it you can't have anything. And you're going to find some apps that you know and love are not going to work anymore when you turn that off. And so, yeah, it's a value proposition. Is it worth me selling parts of my digital soul for you to have that information? No, it's not. And you have to decide that. So, there's so many apps that are so convenient. And so, oh, by the way, I say so a lot. I think after I get trained up well, I'm going to do like a burpee challenge. And every time I say the word so, I'm going to do like 10 burpees. But if I did that right now, the show would end now because I would pass out. So I'll work my way up to that. All right. By the way, I just want to tell you guys, be sure to leave some comments. I really appreciate you, those that already done that. Please leave a comment. Please ask a question. I love so much the interaction that we have here. This is a live experience. This is a community that we form. And my hope is that I can earn your trust and entertain you enough that you want to come back and hang out with me when I have these events. I'm live on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So unfortunately, it'd be 5 o'clock on the West Coast. Wow, I'm losing out on all the West Coast folks by being at 8 o'clock. But hey, if it's important to them, they'll skip supper and watch my video while they're driving down the highway leaving work. Yeah. All right. So let's get started. Next up, Chapter 2. So recently, I was in my car, and now I've got an iPhone. I cranked up Siri to send a reply to a text message because I'm trying to drive, and I'm trying to be hands-free. And so I call Siri, and Siri says yes. And I said, hey, send a text message. Well, the funny thing is that Siri's voice had changed. I'm like, what? And so, hey, Big Red, I'll come back to that one too. So, yeah, Big Red asked a question here. We will revisit that here in just a few minutes. All right, and so basically, Siri no longer sounds like Siri that I know and love. In fact, funny enough, the person that does the voice for Siri follows me on Twitter, and I follow her. Why? I don't know, but I always thought, wow, this is really cool. I can brag that Siri follows me on Twitter. And she still does for some reason. So anyway, and we've interacted a little bit. It's kind of funny. But the point being is that Siri's voice has changed. And with version 14.5 of iOS, well, the voice has changed and it's different. So let's talk about that. And why is that? Because, well, first of all, the point being, and I promise I'm staring at my phone to get to a point. It's going to make sense there in a minute. So Siri changed the voice, and let's go back to my camera. I'll show you this. Ta-da. Make sure I'm still broadcasting. Oh, not broadcasting anymore. Let's go back to broadcasting. NDI, cool. NDI's cool. But if you stop broadcasting, it turns it off. Ta-da! Start broadcasting. All right, so now I'm broadcasting. Back to settings. I know. I'll make this worth your while. All right. So here in settings, if I go into settings and go to Siri and search, and then I go to Siri voice, notice that there are a lot more options for voices. Hey, Sammy, welcome. Thanks for coming by. Yeah, I love Siri too. Well, okay, actually I like Google better, but I'm on an iPhone and it's hard to get Google to listen consistently. But, hey. Anyway, so the point Apple had was that they wanted to take away a male or female voice or a designation of male or female. And so instead you just choose voices. And
hi, I'm Siri. Choose the voice you'd like me to use.
So voice 4 is the one that seems closest to the old Siri.
Hi, I'm Siri. Choose the voice you'd like me to use.
But
hi, I'm Siri. Choose the voice you'd like me to use.
I missed the original voice of Siri. But
hi, I'm Siri. Choose the voice you'd like me to use.
And by the way, this is what I'm using on my phone now. I like the Australian second voice because I love the Australian accent. And so this is what I chose. But the thing you'll find is that as of 14.5.1 update, you have to go and re-download the voices if you've downloaded them previously. So if you haven't played around with this, go out there.
Hi, I'm Siri. Choose the voice you'd like me to use.
So that's British voice 1.
Hi, I'm Siri. Choose the voice you'd like me to use.
And that's Siri British voice 2.
Hi, I'm Siri. Choose the voice you'd like me to use.
I like the Irish voice.
Hi, I'm Siri. Choose the voice you'd like me to use.
I do a lot of tech support calls because of I work in IT. Cool, Sammy. Sammy's still got the original iPhone 4 with the original Siri. Yes, don't let them ever take it away from you. Never. And so I miss Siri. I really do. But I do like that they have all these different nationalities for voices now. And so this is very cool. I think this is a cool thing. And so play around with it. Go out and find out what what you like, and pick the voice that you like. So let's go back to Big Red's question. Big Red says, can using public Wi-Fi cause problems with data protection? Can I still protect my phone while using public access to internet? You can, but what you have to do is you have to use a virtual private network. I can certainly cover that in a different episode, in an upcoming episode, but virtual private networks allow for you to go through different servers to protect, to protect your privacy that way. For example, if you're in Starbucks on public Wi-Fi, do not go checking your bank. Don't log in because it's so easy for people to spoof hotspots in public places, and that hotspot that looks like it's Starbucks could be the guy sitting 4 tables over, and he stood up a hotspot there, and you joined it because you thought that was it. So definitely recommend being careful when you go out in public and putting your device on public networks, because it does allow for people to be able to access your data. It also opens the door for hackers, and they can capture all your traffic. It's not as hard as it once was to decrypt Wi-Fi traffic. Granted, sure, everything is the latest protocols, but at one time they kind of found like after about 1 million packets, you do packet capturing, you could break the encryption. And so, if you don't stick around long enough for them to get 1 million packets, they probably won't be able to break your encryption. It's probably much more precise now. That is probably an old number. But anyway, the point being is that, yes, if you're in a public place and you're using public Wi-Fi, you are putting yourself at risk, and you need to find something like VPN or some other encryption technology in order to protect yourself. So anyway, yep. Wow, I really did this episode really fast. I was talking too fast, wasn't I? Please, if you have any questions, comments, I really, really appreciate when people come by and leave comments. If I don't get them when the show is playing, so if you're watching a rerun of this, I will answer your questions. I will respond. I really do appreciate you coming by and visiting. And that is pretty much it for tonight. Next week, Next week's episode, we're going to talk about everything that Google announced at Google I/O. Google I/O is happening today. Today is May 18th. And so it happened today. There's been several announcements. One is watchOS, some updates where Samsung and Google, and of course Fitbit, which is owned by Google, they're going to do some advances with watchOS so that it's better. And you gotta feel bad for Google because it's been tough for them to get watchOS to really take off. The Fossil watches were very popular with watchOS, but it's just been an interesting thing. Hey Sammy, yep, thanks for the vote of confidence there. Also next week, I'm going to talk about why I bought an M1 Mac Mini as opposed to an M1 iMac. I have very practical reasons. I promise I do. They're very practical. It'll make sense when I explain it to you next week. And also, we'll talk about other tech news out there. Bring your questions. Come by. My goal, as always, is to take technology and explain it in plain language so that you understand. Thank you so much for coming by. Thank you so much for watching. And that's it. It's a wrap. Hey, again, I'm out there in podcast land as well. It's called the One Off Technology Podcast. So feel free to go out there and listen on any of the platforms that you like. Apple Music, Stitcher, Spotify, all of those. Thanks again, and good night. Now. This is the One Off Technology Podcast with your host, Roy Richardson. Each week we cover topics in the news and how they affect you. Sit back, relax, and open your mind. Bye.